My name is Lena Cox, and I am the middle school principal here at Capital City Public Charter School. My history with the school is this is my fourth year as the principal. I began in the spring of 2012 before we moved into this new building. Prior to that, this is actually my 15th year in education. I was a middle school teacher. I've always done middle school. I was a middle school teacher for 6 years at an Expeditionary Learning, which is now EL Education, school in Boston. And then I have been an assistant principal for 3 years, and I was a school designer for EL Education as well when I moved to DC. And so I learned about Capital City. My niece and nephew went to Capital City starting in kindergarten. They've graduated. One is an 8th grader. So I know a lot about Capital City and have a lot of history. The vision I have for my school and my students, really for my school, is around rigorous curriculum, and I want my students to achieve. I also, at this age, middle school is such a tough age, so I really want to create, social activists and critical thinkers. And so it's important for me to not only have student achievement, but really to think about students critically at this age and this stage they are in development. And so my vision is, you enter in 5th grade or 6th grade, and by the time you graduate from the middle school, to be a critical thinker, to have strong academic background, to really push yourself and learn how to advocate for yourself and be a social advocate for other issues that might be that your community might be dealing with as well. When I think about 55% of my students' proficiency levels currently, so we started with Park last year, as all the other schools in DC did. We have not received our Park scores yet. Prior to Park, when we were taking the DC CAS, we did not have that level of proficiency, but we have shown tremendous growth over the past couple of years since we've started as an identified middle school. I think that we do a really good job with using data in our school, and so looking at DC CAS scores, looking at our interim assessments, looking at internal assessments that we do, and use that data to inform our instruction and to think about our groupings and regroupings that we do within our classroom. And we've shown growth with both our reading and our math scores, and continue to think of ways to always be better and show more in our achievement. I absolutely am personally responsible for the academic growth of my students. It's what keeps me up at night, and it's the ideas that I have in the morning. I'm the instructional leader in the building. I look at my teachers as the instructional leaders in their classroom, and it's my job to make sure they're prepared, to make sure that they're getting professional development, to make sure I'm in their classes supporting them. We have an awesome instructional coach that is constantly in classes with teachers, and so it's really our job as an administrative team to make sure that the resources are there, the supports are there, that the teachers' ideas are being heard, so that all of that then impacts student achievement. So yes, I feel like that's a huge part of my job. My academic expectations of my students are around achievement and their portfolio of their learning. So achievement, I do want my students to be strong students, score well on their tests, have meet their standards. We're a standards-based grading school, so meet their standards and their learning targets. And I also want them to be able to show a portfolio of growth. So we are a portfolio-based school. In 8th grade, our students are expected to present their portfolios to a panel of outside visitors and really explain and prove why they're ready to graduate and go on to high school. It's a huge deal. They're in suits and dresses, and it's very much like a dissertation presentation. And they show their growth and what they've learned through their middle school years. And so it's important for that to be just as much seen as a part of their achievement than just automatically receiving all 3s or 4s on their report cards, but to really be able to talk about and reflect on their data and who they are and who they've been as a student. What do I believe causes student achievement? I don't think it has to be one or the other. I don't think it has to be natural intelligence. I don't think it has to be hard work. I think it's a mixture of both. All of my students are bright. All of my students can succeed, and it's our job here to make sure the students that may come in a little farther ahead are continued to be challenged and pushed and enriched. And it's my job, and the jobs of the teachers for students that might need some extra support, that we're building their toolbox for their achievement. They're going to succeed. That's not the question. It's how we as a school build that toolbox for them to be able to do that. Tracking students' academic progress throughout the year is a big thing for us. We're a very data-driven school. We have what's called a data roster that all of our teachers have access to, and that data roster shows we have an internal assessment called math benchmarks. So it shows the math benchmark scores. It shows any of the reading internal assessments that we do. We do an internal writing assessment 3 times a year. So that data roster shows all of that, and throughout the year, I do data consults with teachers, and we're really doing data dives, like looking at where students are struggling, where they're succeeding, how we might need to change some instruction, how we might want to do a small group within a classroom for a particular activity based on the data that we see. So we track that way, kind of on the teacher side. We're also a standards-based grading school, so all teachers post a learning target, which is an I can statement for students. And so the idea is how they will master that learning target, whether it's by the end of the class, by the end of the week. And so students are graded with that, and they're graded with this idea of mastery of a learning target and a standard. And so our report cards are not the one-page report cards. Our report cards are, a very thorough analysis of every single standard that the student has been taught. And how that looks. So a student might might struggle in one particular standard in a class, and that gives the student and the parent an idea of, well, this is where my child may need extra help or more support. And so we track students' progress that way. And for standards-based, we actually track both academic achievement and mastery, and we track their habits of scholars. And so those are the habits that we feel like, especially in middle school and then beyond, really helps them achieve. So the idea of organization and timeliness and being reflective. And so they're also scored on those, and all of those things are tracked. Sometimes physically in a classroom, you might see a poster, or otherwise it's really discussed in student-led conferences or other ways that we might meet with students' families and when I meet with the teachers. Behavioral expectations, especially in middle school, are extremely high, but I think it really comes down to school culture. One thing that I have found from being a teacher in middle school to working in all different middle schools, is really about the school culture. Do students feel safe coming to school? Do they want to come to school? Are they excited for the things that they're doing? Are they engaged? So our job is really to build the culture, and I think we've done an excellent job of really building a culture of joy. Students want to be here. They want to come in and learn. Do we still have some behavior issues? Yes, they're teenagers, they're middle schoolers, but we really look at the root of some of those causes. Our teachers are currently reading a book around the development of being a middle school age. We try to be proactive versus having to be reactive as well. Our social curriculum, which we really build into our classes and also to what our advisory groups are called, which is a crew. So we really do a lot of social curriculum in our crew. We follow the model developmental designs, and so we have teachers trained on that during the summer. And really to think about what are the specific things that we should be very transparent with our students, where are the spaces where trouble can happen in a middle school, and how do we then be proactive about that. We do have, we have behavioral norms, we have expectations, we have consequences, both, positive and negative, depending on that. But I really think it boils down to the culture and putting the energy into school culture, so that it's about managing and not always, a hard line of discipline, but we have all of the pieces in place when we need to respond with a discipline action. But I think it really boils down to school culture. Enforcing rules, again, it's about school culture. And so we have what's a position, an administrator is called the coordinator of school culture. And so his job is to really think about both ends of that spectrum. So what are the positive and incentives that we can do as a school, but then also what are the other things that impact school culture? And sometimes it is behavior. So we have him in place to really support teachers when it comes to whether it's classroom management or something that might go beyond. We have I have what's called the student cabinet, and so CAP for capital city instead of a cabinet. And so that group then also has, within that group, there's like a subcommittee of peers, like a peer judiciary committee. And so we talk about some of the different issues that might happen in school. And my cabinet is a representative of all of the home places throughout the school, from 5th through 8th grade. And they name things that might be going on in 6th grade, might look a little different than things that are going on in 8th grade. What are we doing well? What could we do better? And getting their ideas. And sometimes students are harder on themselves than we are. They come up with some pretty good ideas that we then, take and add to our creative toolbox of ways to, hold consequences. But we definitely have high expectations for behavior, and we hold students accountable. And every student in this building belongs to every single teacher. So there's not this idea, well, you're not my teacher, you can't say this to me. We don't have that either. It's about the community and making sure that we have, like I said, having a safe community and making sure students want to be here. We definitely are a school of shout-outs and celebrations. And so each week, students have a community meeting, which is held by grade level. And so teachers and students kind of shout each other out for different things that may have happened or something that they noticed. We saw a student being an ally to another student, then that student gets a huge shout-out and recognition. We don't necessarily do very strict positive incentives for every small thing. We're building a community of young adults. And so in the same way in the real world, you won't necessarily win a ticket for doing something good. We want to make sure that that becomes an inherent behavior and that they really discuss it and talk about it amongst themselves. I am the biggest person, like I will run down the hallway, shouting a kid's name or celebrating something that was really outstanding. And all of our staff is, where we communicate a lot with each other as adults in the building, so that one staff member will say, you should have seen what such and such did. And then another teacher in a totally different grade will see that student in the hallway and make sure to recognize them for that. And then the student's like, how do you know that I did that? And we're like, because that is major. That is big news. It's made the internal newsletter type of thing. So it's about both celebrating them publicly, but also, pulling them to the side and just saying, we notice you and we notice the good things that you're doing and we appreciate that. And we need more of that, continue to be that student leader. So building young people. I do believe that I'm personally responsible for professional development, and it's not even just me. We have I have a team of teachers, my teacher leaders in the building, called my instructional leadership team, and we meet along with the administrative team to really think through what are critical areas for professional development. On Wednesdays, every single Wednesday, students are dismissed early at 1:30, and teachers go through weekly professional development from 2 o'clock until 4:15 every week, and that's a variety of activities and conversations and workshops, and some are independently led through a program or activity that we call Lead Learners. So it's really teachers as leaders of their own learning in the middle school. We also, because we're a campus pre-K 3 through 12th grade, there are two other principals, my principal sisters, in the building. And so we meet along with our head of school and think about what are conversations that we need to be having across all three campuses. We have the opportunity here for a student to enter at age 3 if they wanted to, and they're with us until 12th grade. So what do we want to make sure as we think about vertical alignment, is important for all of our teachers, elementary, middle, and high school. So there are times throughout the year that we meet as an entire staff and do different workshops, whether it's around equity and diversity. It might be things around vertical alignment and kind of the profile of the capital city student and what we're working on. Sometimes it might be just one particular topic around writing. What does writing look like in 3rd grade, 7th grade, and 10th grade? And really thinking about that. So we really push our students around, our teachers around being their own student, on Wednesday. We also are really lucky to be a part of the EL Education Network that provides external workshops and institutes for our teachers to be able to go through. So our contract with EL Education allows for us to send teachers to other schools in our network. It allows us to send them to other institutes and, professional development that way. And then just finding other professional development. Our instructional coaches on all 3 campuses do a really good job of finding opportunities for our teachers to be a part of. So they're able to travel externally, or sometimes we put together things for them to be able to do. But professional development for teachers is just as important as the, student achievement for students. We can't teach our students if our teachers aren't constantly being challenged and forced to think about and how to improve their own craft. Teacher vacancy, recruitment, all of that is a huge part. We want to make sure that we have the right people in our classrooms in front of our students. And so recruitment is a big deal here for us. We definitely take teachers through the ringer before they actually get to stand in front of our students as an official teacher. Our interview process is a lengthy and multi-step process. So, once we recruit on a variety of sites and really look for whether it's programs that we know have sent us very strong teachers or just different websites that we know teachers look to. And we have them, they go through a screening process with myself or someone else from my administrative team. We have them come in for an interview of a panel of other teachers as well. So it's not just the administrator sitting there, it's other people that would be on their teaching team. So they do that interview, and then they interview with the hardest group of people, which are our students. So they do a demo lesson for our students, and the students know, like, this person is thinking about being a teacher here at Capital City. And then the students fill out a rubric and grade the candidate. And we take that very seriously, because if the students are hard, the students are hard on people, and they'll say, no, this person is amazing, absolutely hire them, or no, I don't think they'll be a good fit. And so we use our student voice just as much as we use, our voice from the interview. And then sometimes we have them do an additional task to really think about what their lesson planning might look like, or other questions that we might have. And so our process is lengthy, but it's really important to get the right people and the right fit. That we're a different type of school. We're an awesome school, but we're a different type of school, and we want to make sure that the teachers that are here really know what they're signing up for. We evaluate our teachers and really think about their accountability for their own students' growth a couple of different ways. So we do have, an evaluation process around observation and feedback loop and all of that, kind of your typical standard observation and feedback. But we also have a couple of additional things around learning walks, for instance. So it might be a learning walk where myself, the head of school, the other principals in the building, other teachers, just go into classrooms. We go in with a certain template. We might be looking for a particular thing, something that we're talking about during professional development, something that's set around our goals for the school, and offer feedback. We're looking for patterns. What are we seeing in the 5th grade classrooms, the 6th grade classrooms? And then we write our teachers a letter to really talk about the patterns that we might have seen. So that's one way that we really hold teachers accountable for their student growth as well. I mentioned before our instructional coach. She's absolutely amazing. And she goes into a lot of the classrooms and does different coaching cycles with teachers. And so while she's not an evaluator, she's definitely supporting them so that when I go in as their evaluator, or my director of student services goes in as an evaluator and supervisor, she has really coached them and worked with them around a particular goal that they've set for themselves, or different ways that she knows that they could strengthen their classroom. And then we also, really look at just our data and looking at data and really having teachers reflect on their data. So, I might hold a meeting with different teachers at different times throughout the year. Will talk to me about what you're seeing in your classroom beyond the numbers. So I can see the numbers. I see how they're scoring on, some of our internal benchmarks. But what are you seeing? What does that look like in the classroom? What are adjustments that you're making? And the next time I'm in the classroom or that I come in with, a team of your peers, what should we look for? What would be helpful to you? So it's really a process where teachers are involved, and it's not a top-down process. It's really like, how are you going to strengthen your craft? How can I help you and support you with that? And how is all of that moving our students in the right direction around their achievement? In middle school, parent engagement is huge. And this is a part of my day and kind of a part of my job that I really like. It's so, this is the age where parents tend to, or not even parents, students want their parents to kind of back off a little bit. And like I always tell parents, no, this is the age where I need you the most. So I always try and think of ways to really engage our parents in things that they're going to be interested in, working with their own child at this critical yet crazy age sometimes, as a middle school. So we might hold parent workshops. Last year we held a workshop, and this year we'll hold another one on social media. That is such a huge thing for our parents now. And so what are ways that, what are different, I send home a newsletter that tells them the current apps. Check your child's phone for these apps. This is the app that's doing this, and, all of those different things. So finding ways to engage them and just things that they could use help with, and that, we stay current on working with middle school students. Communication is huge. The kids aren't necessarily going home to tell their parents everything anymore like they did when they were in elementary school. So every Sunday, I do a Sunday night robocall to all the families to let them know what's coming up for the week. I do it's called the Middle School Messenger that goes out every 2 weeks, and it goes both in students' book bags, but also via email. And then it's posted on our site for parents to hear what are some of the celebrations, what are some of the learning that's going on. If we're doing an expedition, do you know an expert in this field that could come in and help, ways that you might want to come in and help. We also require parents to do service and volunteer hours with the school, and so ways that they can come in and volunteer. We're very open door school, so whether, if you're able to come in and help just for a little bit, or if you're able to be a speaker for an expedition. So finding ways to really meet parents where they are, things that they might be interested in as well. And then again, the benefit of being part of a 3-campus school, there's just different activities that we do, whether it's a Hispanic Heritage Month, or celebration of Dr. King in the winter, different events that we hold, potlucks, and we have plays and drama productions and all of those different things. So really thinking about ways to just bring parents in to have fun with our students and to learn from our students, or if it's workshops that are either led by us, or sometimes parents take on a leadership role with that. And then sometimes we bring parents in just to appreciate them. Our counselor put together an awesome mother's retreat in the past, where it's just like, come in and do some yoga or crafts, or get a massage, and that's all based on volunteers and in-kind services. And so just ways to bring parents in as much as possible and keep them engaged in some form or fashion. We also have a huge turnout of parents at our back to school nights, at our celebrations of learning where students are presenting. And then I'm super proud of the number of parents that come for our student-led conferences. We don't have parent conferences. Our students lead their conferences, showcase their portfolios, talk about their work, reflect on, their data, talk about their goal setting. And we generally have about 96% of our families attend these conferences because they know how important it is to stay engaged. I'm extremely available to talk to parents. I definitely have an open door policy. I'm a parent. I have a 6-year-old and I have a 3-year-old. So I know how important it is for me to have access to my children's principals, and I want to be that principal too. My cell phone number is on my business cards. I have parents that text me. I have parents, call me, email. They find me on the plaza out front at dismissal. They'll come in with their child at the start of the day, at arrival, throughout the day. I definitely think, and I feel like I can securely say my parents would agree. I am very accessible. Like that's a huge part of my job. They're a major stakeholder. They trust me and our teachers with their children for 7.5 hours of their day. So it's critical for me to be accessible, even if whether it's just to ask me a quick question, whether it's really to sit down with me and name a concern. I want to hear the concerns, and I want my parents to know that I hear their concerns and that we put things in place. And then I also, I survey parents throughout the year, different topics, whether it might be a workshop. What are you interested in hearing? What are some concerns you have? What are some great things that we're doing? You can always come tell me the great things that we're doing too. So, what are ways why is your child still coming home happy? What are things that they're talking about at home? So hearing that, because, students might do one thing in school and might share something else with their parents. We can't know that if I don't hear that back from our parents. So no, I'm extremely accessible to them.